and was met mostly with positive reviews. However, its return at the box office was modest at best, considering director David Fincher's prior film Seven and its wildly successful theatrical run. The film was shot in San Francisco and was very capable of capturing the upper-scale Wall Street old money lifestyle that our protagonist was privy to at the start of the film. Immaculate cinematography by Harris Savides and the film's love for steely blues and teals, coupled with oversaturated lighting, all add to the film's atmosphere as the plot continues to unravel and strip the egotistical Nicholas Horton of what he valued most, power and control. The game might not be Fincher's strongest project out of his absolutely stellar filmography, but it does showcase his early ability to effectively create a sense of paranoia and dread throughout, while keeping us as spectators utterly clueless as to what the final outcome would be, ultimately leading our main character through a rough journey of self-discovery that stops Nicholas Horton from taking his own life at the age of 48, the same age his late father was when he committed suicide some years before. If you're a fan of Fincher's contemporary work, which includes Social Network, Gone Girl, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or the director's Netflix series Mindhunter, we as a podcast strongly recommend dipping your feet into some of the director's early works, as the game is now available to stream via Netflix. Thank you.
Awesome. Good write-up, dude.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You always have a solid opener.
I try, gotta set the tone. But I want to know, what are your feelings on this film, and where does it stack? Where does it end up in in Fincher's other works? And what are your thoughts on Fincher as a filmmaker as a whole? I'm curious to hear.
Oh, Fincher's great. He's one of my favorites. I'd put him up there with just thinking of more contemporary directors like Christopher Nolan and Tarantino and Wes Anderson, who have only maybe 10 movies, give or take, between them. And they're all really fucking solid movies. Even the weakest of their movies are usually still pretty damn good. And I love Fincher films. We kind of got into this with CJ off air after we wrapped Road to Perdition last month.
Yep.
And it's a movie that The Game is a movie that I very much love. It might be in my top 3 Fincher movies, and I know that's probably a hot take. But I put it up there as one of my favorites, along with Seven and Zodiac, because it's so unexpected, and it's like once the plot gets going, it's like non-stop. It's just like non-stop adrenaline and anxiety, and you never know what's real, what's going to happen next. And it continues that momentum until the climax, until you figure out just what was going on and how crazy everything was. So when we spoke with CJ, I said it was in my top 3. I think it's very much a movie that's in a few years later, like Christopher Nolan may have made. Like between that Memento, Insomnia, Prestige period, it's very much one of those films where it's a total, for lack of a better term, it's a total mindfuck film.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say probably a top 3 for me personally. Definitely a top 5 Fincher for me, but maybe even a top 3, along with Seven and Zodiac. I know I took some shit earlier today for that from Susie. But I stand by it. I think it's a fantastic movie, and the reason I really wanted to talk about it was I think it's his least known film. I don't think that a lot of people know this movie or realize that he may have directed it. You know, unless you tell them, or unless, you know, they've watched it before and, you know, seen his name in the credits. It's everything always gets talked about more in his filmography, and not really this one, which I think is unfortunate because it's so fucking good, and I think it's just incredibly underrated. So thank you for allowing me on to talk about it, and I guess we'll see where we are at the end of this, and to whether or not it deserves to be in one of his top tier films. But I will say again that all of his movies are very good. There hasn't been one that I've disliked. I haven't watched Bank yet, so I can't speak on that one. I have heard mixed things about it, unfortunately.
So you do like Alien 3?
I do like Alien 3. Alien 3, while not nearly as good as Alien and Aliens, and is kind of a letdown, it was the first Alien film I saw in theaters, so I always will have a soft spot for it. And I know that he had lots of trouble making it. I still think it's a pretty decent movie. I don't think it's awful. It is, I don't want to say infuriating, but it's definitely a letdown, especially coming off of the high of Aliens. But still, I do like it. I do enjoy it. I like it better than most of Alien Resurrection. And I think we've had this discussion before, and if not, I'll say it now. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is probably my least favorite Fincher film. Not saying that it's a bad movie or that I don't like it, because I do like it very much, but it's kind of the one that just never really connected with me as much as all the other films did.
Okay, that's interesting. That's I knew that. I remember we've talked about it, that if you always felt like that was like, it didn't really feel like a Fincher film for whatever reason.
It feels like a Fincher film. I mean, it has that look, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, all the weirdo lighting. It has that look. It's got that kind of darker material. But I think if you watched that movie, if there hadn't been the Swedish versions with Noomi Rapace, I think that movie might have connected a little bit more with me. Mm-hmm. But I think because at least the original Swedish version of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is really good, I think that's kind of why Fincher's version, while still being very good itself, I think that's why I was a little lukewarm on it. Or, like I said, I like it a lot. It just doesn't connect with me as much as his other films have. And as much as this one, as much as The Game does.
I can see that, yeah.
You see the change in Michael Douglas's character, Nick Van Orton. You see the change in him as this experience gets crazier and crazier. And going through the research, I found that Fincher had referred to it as like a modern day or a postmodern Christmas Carol, where this guy is like a shitty person, just kind of uncaring. You get that from the very beginning where he's in his office and he's got his secretary and there's another assistant that tells him that his wife called and then, wishes him happy birthday. And he just kind of is very cold towards her.
Yes.
And says, I don't like her, to his executive assistant. And then, he kind of gets home and he kind of lives this very privileged life, but alone and lonely. You see him in the boardroom, like not accepting the terms of a deal. Later on, a little bit later in the movie, he finances a small book company, and that guy's not making money. So he wants to cut that guy off and, take over the business. And that's a family-run business. You can tell that it's been around for a long time. But he just doesn't care about it. He's very upset with the guy. He's going to have his... he's firing him. He's got the severance package for him. And then, unfortunately, things aren't working out for him that day. He can't get into his briefcase. This is all part of the manipulation of what this company does to him. But you can see that he's very much this Scrooge character. And then as he goes through this experience, he changes. He becomes humbled. At the very end, he's more appreciative. He's a nicer person, especially towards his brother and his ex-wife, who he was kind of estranged from the both of them. So I very much, when I read that, and then watching the movie again in prep for the episode, very much agreed with that. It's definitely like A Christmas Carol, only much crazier.
Yeah, like a rated R version of that.
Yeah.
Tale.
Yeah. Here's a line from the research. He regains his soul after having a whirlwind of life-changing encounters. He changes. I don't want to say changes his ways, because you don't see him later, but you do see him at the end of all this, after the climax, being a much nicer person, a much warmer towards his ex-wife and her new husband, who he has a very what's the word I'm looking for? Not standoffish, but when he's on the phone with his wife, because the movie starts out on his birthday. His ex-wife calls him and wishes him a happy birthday, and he's very short and curt with her. And then she, asks about her new husband. They have a daughter, and the wife is pregnant again with one on the way. And he's very cold towards her as well. And then at the very end, when we get there, but at the very end, he's much nicer and more welcoming towards his ex-wife and her new husband.
I think Michael Douglas, they chose the right person for that character, because he's great at playing those type of characters, like that cold asshole, archetype. And he really pulls it off, and he's subtle when he has to, and as he goes through all these different stages, it feels very organic, Yeah,
and he gets kind of more and more frantic as things happen. But speaking of Douglas, he's great in this movie. This is, in my opinion, one of his strongest performances.